The principle of life. Douglass and Baldwin both experienced racism at a young age, and they educated themselves and others, which helped change for slaves. In Douglass' writing, What to the Slaves is the 4th of July, Douglass stood in front of a crowd and spoke out to the people for those who didn't have a voice. Today, a lot has changed from the way things were back then. Many Americans are too busy only worrying about themselves instead of standing up together for justice. This world today would be a whole lot better if we could all come together and stand for the same rights. Douglass had been through a lot in his younger days and still then, which made him a stronger man. Back in those days, black men were afraid to speak out because of fear from white people and the things they would do to them. Douglass talked about how black people celebrated the 4th of July, but the question still remains. How could we talk about celebrating the 4th of July when we continue to separate blacks from whites? All colored people deserve the same respect as others, no matter what culture you come from. They all bled to keep this country safe, so why make them feel less than others? Americans tend to lose their focus when it comes to standing for justice for all and choose to continue to discriminate against one another. Also, Douglass talks about being entitled to liberty, but he questioned, how can you have liberty if you don't have justice of your own body? He talked about the principle of justice, but it's hard to be understood if we don't stand together. In contrast, Gabriel the father in Go Tell It on the Mountain is entitled to his own body, but he faces trouble with his flesh. Gabriel faced discrimination and judgment his whole life that he forced himself to stay holy, and he forced it upon his family so he wouldn't have to experience their life again. Gabriel was so strict about things that he pressured his older son more than anyone in the house. I believe that was to train his son John to be the man of the house if anything was to happen to him. John seemed to let his father take ownership of his body when he does what his father wants him to do instead of what he really wanted to do. Parents today are like Gabriel. They focus only on making their kids to be something they wish they would have did back in their time. Parents lose the connection with their child when they don't pay attention to the things that really matter to their child and what makes them happy. However, Douglass did not have any connection with his parents because he was taken from his parents at a young age. But he became very smart. Douglass taught himself how to read, which helped him escape from slavery. I believe in educating each other, which will create a better and healthy life for all. It's just important to embrace others to learn so they can understand the world we live in. Slaves were reminded of unfulfilled promise of equal liberty for all in the Declaration of Independence by celebrating the 4th of July. But it was another day to the slaves because they were treated like animals. They were dehumanized by their masters. Slaves were uneducated about the laws, so they couldn't stand for themselves. Douglass was educated and wanted the world to know what slaves really went through and how they felt about the treatment the people who said they believed in liberty gave them. Next, going back to Baldwin, he was raised in slavery time, which he overcame and spoke on what and how colored people experienced slavery, but in a different way from Douglass. John was smart and wanted to follow a different path than his father, but his father was important to him, so he did what his father wanted him to do. But John seen past racism when trying to do something he wanted. Gabriel only seen whites and thought of the worst outcomes, which led him not to support John's decision. Gabriel was so struck by his past life that he wanted to avoid any bad outcomes. In conclusion, Douglass was informing that change is needed in order to make America a better country, which takes everyone, no matter what race or culture you come from, and should be all treated with honor and respect. Also, Baldwin is stating that everyone needs support and wisdom when it comes to doing things that make you happy. In both articles, the writers are both dealing with racism issues, and they both are standing for justice and liberty. Douglass pointed out many times through his speech that slavery is wrong and argue the principle of justice.